Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. Today I want to talk about the shortage of 454B. This video is kind of more so catered to whoever's interested in air conditioning news, essentially. Obviously, some homeowners could, get some good information from this. Also, contractors as well. Obviously, if you're an air conditioning contractor, you already know about the 454B shortage. But I just wanted to talk about it on here and kind of discuss what I've learned, what we've done, and kind of just like an overall of what's going on. So if you're not familiar, the EPA is mandating that we essentially switch to A2L refrigerants, and basically it's amongst two types of refrigerants. There's R32, there's 454B. 454B is used in like carrier products, train products, Linux, and so on. And R32 is pretty much just like Daikin, Amana, Goodman products. Now, with this whole government mandate of switching to lower GDP refrigerants, the problem that we seem to be having is, well, they didn't really think that it was going to be a problem, but it is a problem now, is that we started this transition, and at first 454B was available. It was more pricey, and there's like 20 pounds in a cylinder compared to 25 pounds in 410A or 30 pounds in R22. So it's less refrigerant, but it was a little bit more expensive than 410A was. So that's a bummer, but it's not that bad because I don't think everyone really realizes that 454B systems take less refrigerant. Yeah, you are, buying less refrigerant for more money, but the systems that you're putting it in don't take as much refrigerant, which is a good sign. Now, with this whole A2L shift, it's kind of cool that, R32 is readily available. There's really not a shortage on that. The price isn't great either, but you still have the ability to purchase it. You have the comfort of knowing that, hey, if I install this system, I should definitely have the refrigerant to charge for additional line sets, or if I do have, a failure, or maybe like a tech goes out there and they think they did a good pressure test and pulled a good vacuum, and then you go out there a week later, then it doesn't have any gas in it. So you can feel confident that you'll at least have the refrigerant to actually charge the system. But it's not the same with 454B. And that's a big downside now. Because one, these systems are new, so we're not anticipating actually having issues with these systems. Especially since we're just installing these brand new systems. If you're following, good practices, you're obviously brazing with nitrogen, you're obviously pressure checking your systems, you're pulling vacuums down to as far as you can go, 500 at minimum. You're kind of doing all those things to make sure that you don't have any leaks so you can feel comfortable installing these systems. But if you do have an issue, then there's a big issue here. Because, like I said, if one of your techs goes out there and installs a 454B system and, and then it leaks out, in, a week, 2 weeks, a month or something from like a bad joint that, they field brazed, then that's a problem because you can't get the refrigerant. The downside is it's like I don't know, they're saying October is the earliest availability for this refrigerant, but I'm hearing conflicting reports from kind of like everywhere. And this is like people in the industry, this is obviously on the internet, this is through forums, this is from distributors, this is from a little bit of everybody, And basically what I'm seeing is that if you didn't buy 454B whenever it was available, and you are selling products that are using this new refrigerant, you're not going to be able to charge for the additional line set. So it really doesn't make sense for you to sell those products because you're kind of underserving your customer because you need to charge the system appropriately, because most of these systems are only charged, at least in residential homes, they're only charged for 15 foot. So you need to add that additional line set length on top of that charge in order to make sure the system's operating at the correct, subcooling, superheat, all that. But yeah, let's talk about like why this refrigerant shortage occurred, or like the theories behind why people are saying this occurred. I'm hearing from some people that it has something to do with the tanks and the way like the rupture disc is on the tank. I don't know if it's a rupture disc now. I think they switched it to something else, but they're saying that initially the cylinder that the 454B went in, initially it got approved, and then after some times they like reevaluated it and said that, okay, we can't approve this. And apparently there's only 1 or 2 companies that actually make these tanks themselves. And that is one theory of why we're having the shortage. Which seems weird to me because it's like just a tank, and it seems like, we don't really necessarily have a shortage on metal, so tanks can be created. Yeah, we do have tariffs, so that's making these metals more expensive, but it's not like we have a shortage on metal to make these tanks. So that's one thing I just don't quite understand, and I don't know, it seems like a theory, but there's no like definitive answer because every distributor you talk to, they say all different things. Another theory that we're getting from, like I said, talking to distributors, talking to parts houses, talking to manufacturers of these units, people are saying like the patent was like held by Honeywell. And for some reason, the patent is the reason why we're having an issue getting, 454B into higher production. I mean, it seems plausible, but it doesn't really justify anything. Like the way I look at it is, if Trane, Carrier, Lennox, if we just think about those 3 companies alone, if they had to go and switch to this new, EPA mandate of A2L refrigerants, then wouldn't they be on like the forefront of knowing that, hey, like, okay, cool, we can get this refrigerant in, in a huge quantity in order for us to actually, sell these systems, because they understand that if, your contractors don't have the refrigerant for the systems, you probably will see a sales decline. And these companies are like billion-dollar companies, so that this is something that they would have looked at. The weird thing is, this is still happening. These companies are, selling their equipment. They rolled out the A2L stuff. They're trying to get rid of their 410A inventory. And, a lot of the contractors who didn't purchase any 454B, either they're out of luck altogether, or they, or maybe they're, underserving their customer by not charging the system appropriately. Or they're doing methods that I wouldn't necessarily recommend at all, and then topping the gas off with like 32, or just like recovering all the refrigerant and then adding 32 to the system. 32 has a different discharge pressure. It doesn't make any sense to do that, but I don't speak for everybody. We do what we do at our company a specific way because we want to do what the manufacturer wants us to do, essentially, and we want to do it the right way by the customer, So those are 2 different theories that I'm hearing. Now, as far as like the lead time for this stuff, it's kind of crazy to think that we may have to wait till October, So this is like after summer in order for us to even get additional cylinders of 454B. Luckily, I was able to purchase a cylinder prior to all of this stuff happening, and the only reason I purchased the cylinder is because we had a Bosch install, And that system, obviously, Bosch is doing 454B as well. And so I had to purchase a cylinder, and I was totally cool with it. And when I purchased it, I think it was like it was just over 400 bucks. And it couldn't have been more than like 2 months ago. It wasn't that long ago. But luckily I have that cylinder still. And, we're kind of just being wary on conserving that refrigerant and just maybe offering customers, different brands just for the time being up until we can get 454B. Because I would hate to have a customer out there that, we just install a system for, and then, it springs a evaporator coil leak or something, and then now we can't get the refrigerant for that customer. It's like, at that point, what do you tell the customer? I just don't want to be in that position myself. But yeah, that's kind of where we sit with it. I'm sure over time, the timeline will probably be pushed forward. So I'm taking the position of I'm not going to so much stress about it. I just wanted to talk about it because it's the kind of the biggest thing going on in the industry right now. I just wanted to talk about it, and but I'm not going to stress about it. Because I said I'm not going to stress about it. I put my hand on my head like I'm stressing. It's the biggest thing going on in the industry. But if I were to make an assumption about this whole thing, I just don't see bigger, distributors of 454B products really having to wait until October in order to get like shipments of 454B. So I imagine there's going to be some push here or there with these multi-billion-dollar companies to whoever creates this refrigerant, whether it's Honeywell or Opteon or whoever's creating this stuff, and so that they can actually get some more production going and get them to supply houses so that people can actually purchase this. Now I will say one like caveat here, one weird thing that has been going on that I have been seeing is that every now and then I'll get a lead from somebody, whether this is a distributor, supply house, parts house, whatever. And they're just like, hey, Alonzo, I heard you were looking for 454B refrigerant. You should call this place. I just heard they got 1,000 of them, right? So I'm like, awesome, cool. I'll give them a call, see if I can get some. Well, I'm not going to like name the places, but I've called 2 people that I've gotten leads from, or like 2, supply houses that I've gotten leads from other people for, and just asked, hey, can I purchase a tank of 454B? And the first thing they asked me was, do you buy equipment from us? And at this particular parts house, I don't buy equipment from because I don't really like their equipment for our customers. So I told him, I was like, no, we do warranty calls on like the equipment that you guys do sell. So we do, spend money with you guys, but we don't buy your product. And, the salesman will be like, okay, I got to speak to my manager. And they'll typically go back to the manager and then he'll come back to me and say, we can't sell it to you. And I'm just like, why? And he's just like, because you don't purchase equipment from us and we're only using it for our own customers. Now, I will say, like, just thinking about this totally, like, objectively, as if I wasn't in the industry and had this company to, maintain, I can understand that somewhat. I can understand wanting to take care of your customers who purchase, multiple systems from you. I can understand that to a point. But the other side of me, the other side of me is like, if there's like this big shortage, if it seems a little bit more fair to all contractors to do like a first come, first serve, first come, first serve kind of mentality with this. Now that does kind of, it makes it a little bit kind of odd as if you got leads from different people and they kind of like tell you, hey, like call this place. Like you're getting a hookup in front of somebody else. But, even if I didn't use those leads, I was calling other, like all distributors and just asking, hey, like, do you have 454B? And I was kind of getting that same answer. The craziest one I got the other day was I'd have to buy a whole pallet of 410A, and they would sell me 2 jugs of 454B at $999 each jug. That was crazy. That, to me, that was crazy. I was like, no, like that doesn't, I mean, financially, that doesn't make any sense. Plus their 410A was more expensive than it was at other distributors. So I don't know. It's interesting out here how everything's is playing out. But either way, I don't want to make this like a doom and gloom type of thing. 454B will eventually be available. It will. They have no choice because the government's mandated this whole EPA A2L thing. So we're definitely going to have 454B. It's just based upon the timeline in which it actually, you know, comes into stock more. Now, as far as the pricing goes, can we, you know, anticipate 454B, you know, in the you know, Southeast region being, you know, the same cost as 410A? I don't think so at all. I think 454B is going to be easily a few $100 at minimum more than 410A. Probably more like $400 more, I would guess. If I had to put an average on the cost of it, I would say it would probably cost about $700 a 20-pound cylinder, you know, down here in Florida. Bummer, it's expensive. Will it like pay for itself? Yeah, refrigerant almost always pays for itself. But yeah, I just wanted to throw this video together for you guys just to talk about it and let you know whatever I'm hearing from, you know, different sources here in Florida and you know, in the third year of business. So if you guys are interested in this newer style HVAC type of content, definitely subscribe to the channel. I plan on having more like detailed discussions about a lot of different things and just kind of like, you know, best practices as a small company, maybe some like tips and stuff for like homeowners. And then I want to have like small like interviews. That's why I've got another chair here with like other contractors who are willing to talk about, you know, their businesses, their growth, what they're seeing in the industry, what they like, what they don't like. So that you guys can just have that information. Like I love to talk nerdy business stuff, especially with other contractors. So I figured why not just start recording it and posting it. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you the next time I post a video. Peace.